I trusted her with everything, thought she was helping my brother with a big project. But that night at dinner, I saw who she was really helping, and it wasn't him. The moment I realized the truth, everything I thought I knew shattered. And what I did next changed everything. Before we dive in, like, share, and subscribe because this story isn't just drama, it's real karma. I never thought I'd be the type of person to feel this level of betrayal. I always trusted people to isolate, maybe because I wanted to believe in the best in everyone. My life had been relatively calm, structured, predictable, until Celine entered the picture. Celine Ardent. She was stunning, yes, but it wasn't just her looks that drew me in. It was her energy, her charm, the way she could make everyone around her feel like they mattered. I thought she loved me. I thought we were building something real together. My brother, Kieran Vale, was my closest ally. We'd been through everything together: childhood fights, teenage rebellions, early adult failures. I trusted him with my life, and I trusted him to know what was right for me. So when Celine started helping him with a work project, I didn't think twice. I trusted her. I didn't see the warning signs. I ignored the little things, the late-night messages, the way her smile lingered just a second too long when she was talking to him, the excuses that didn't quite add up. I told myself I was overthinking it. But there's a subtle tension that creeps into your chest when something feels off. You try to shake it, laugh it away, tell yourself you're imagining things. I felt that tension often around Celine. Sometimes when she spoke to Kieran, I caught her glancing around like she was hiding something. In Kieran, he seemed distracted in ways I'd never seen before. Not distant exactly, just careful, protective. But I pushed it down. I told myself family dynamics are messy. Relationships are messy. It's normal. I remember the moments that should have raised alarms. The way Celine lingered on her phone at odd hours. The way she insisted she was running errands for Kieran but couldn't give details. The subtle unease in Kieran's eyes when I casually asked questions. I'd catch them exchanging knowing smiles or whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked in. Every instinct in me screamed something was wrong, but my desire to trust, to believe in people, outweighed caution. And that's the thing about betrayal, it creeps in quietly. It doesn't announce itself with a shout. It whispers in small inconsistencies, in tiny details that slowly make your reality feel like it's cracking. At first, it's subtle, almost unnoticeable. But once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. I wasn't prepared for that realization, and yet the seeds were already there, planted in the quiet, deceptive comfort of trust. That's when I started paying attention. Observing, without being obvious, watching for patterns, for truths hiding behind smiles, behind reassurances. It was still early, but the feeling that something was deeply wrong started to shape my every thought. And little did I know that the dinner that seemed innocent, normal, would become the night everything exploded. The night I would finally uncover the truth about who Celine was really helping, and why she had been lying to me all along. It started small. Little things that I could have brushed off at first, I couldn't. My instincts had never been wrong, and slowly, the pieces of the puzzle began to poke through the cracks. Celine's behavior changed, almost imperceptibly at first, but enough that I noticed. The casual texts to Kieran became constant. Late at night, full of emojis that didn't feel like work. Messages deleted almost immediately. Calls that she answered in hushed tones, cutting them off whenever I entered the room. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe Kieran's project was stressful. Maybe Celine just had a lot on her plate. But then came the moments that couldn't be explained away. I'd catch them in the kitchen, laughing at a joke I didn't understand. Kieran's expression shifting when I asked a question. Selena's smile lingering far too long like it wasn't meant for me at all. Every subtle glance, every whispered word felt like a punch in the chest. My gut twisted in ways I hadn't felt in years, and it was impossible to ignore. I started observing more, paying attention to the smallest details, the tilt of her head, the way she shifted when Kieran walked into a room, the way her fingers lingered on his arm for just a moment too long. And it wasn't just her. Kieran's behavior changed too, became cautious, almost guarded, as if he was afraid of being caught. The brother I trusted implicitly, the one who had always been honest with me, suddenly felt like he was holding back. And every time I tried to confront him casually, his eyes darted away, his words clipped, rehearsed. That unease settled in my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. There were nights I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversations. In my head, trying to convince myself I was wrong. But something in me knew I wasn't. The betrayal was there, hiding behind smiles and excuses, waiting to be uncovered. I found myself checking phones, noticing patterns in their schedules, piecing together small fragments that didn't add up. Each discovery was like a knife twisting deeper. The more I uncovered, the more enraged I felt, but also more focused. I started imagining the confrontation, how I would expose them, how I would show the truth without losing control of myself. The anger simmered beneath the surface, sharp, precise, ready to explode at the right moment. Every time Celine brushed past me, every time Kieran's eyes flickered in a way that betrayed a secret, the tension built, knotting tighter and tighter in my chest. And then came the final sign, the one I couldn't ignore. Slip a glance, a whispered laugh I wasn't supposed to hear. In that instant, the reality slammed into me like a freight train. Celine wasn't helping Kieran. She was helping herself. Helping someone else. Someone I never would have imagined. My blood ran cold. I clenched my fists, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I realized then that the dinner we had planned, the family dinner, the ordinary evening would be the moment everything changed. That night, I would see the truth with my own eyes. And when I did, there would be no going back. Once I realized the truth, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the relief of finally knowing it was the cold, focused clarity that comes when you know exactly what must be done. Celine had been lying. Kieran, for reasons I still couldn't fully understand, had let her slip through the cracks of our trust. And I knew that if I didn't act, the chance to expose the betrayal perfectly would vanish. So I started planning. Carefully, methodically, like a storm gathering strength before it hits. The family dinner was my stage. It had to be perfect. Everyone had to be there. My parents, Kieran, Celine. I couldn't let a single variable slip. I thought through every detail, the timing of their arrivals, the seating arrangements, even the way the lighting would fall across the table. Every gesture, every glance could become a weapon or a shield. I intended to use both. I needed them to feel the weight of the truth, to see the consequences of their lies reflected in everyone around them. I began collecting evidence in silence. Text messages, hidden calls, photos that Celine thought I'd never find. Each one was another thread weaving the tapestry of their betrayal. I studied them, memorized them, internalized them. By the time dinner arrived, I had every line, every moment, every excuse rehearsed, not in anger, but in cold precision. I would speak, and the truth would hit like a hammer. There was no room for missteps. And yet, beneath that calm, the anger simmered. I could feel it in my chest, tight and burning, ready to flare with a single spark. But I had learned that real power comes from control. Rage that bursts too soon destroys the moment. So I waited. I imagined Selena's smug smile fading as she realized her carefully crafted lies were unraveling. I imagined Kieran's confusion turning into disbelief, then shame. Every scenario played out in my mind with cinematic clarity, each one sharpening the edge of my resolve. I also had to be subtle. The confrontation couldn't feel like a sudden ambush. It had to seem inevitable, like the truth itself had orchestrated the moment. I planned the timing when the wine glasses would be filled, when the chatter would be light enough to allow the truth to strike. I knew that their reactions would be raw, unpredictable, explosive. I didn't care. In that moment, karma would do its work, and I would be the calm eye in the center of the storm. As the evening drew near, I rehearsed silently in front of the mirror. Not just my words, but my expressions, my pauses, the cadence of my voice. Every detail mattered. The moment had to hit perfectly. By the time I walked into that dining room, I wasn't just Rylan Vera. I was the culmination of every betrayal. They'd hidden, every lie they'd told, every ounce of trust they had shattered. And when they realized I knew, when Celine's facade crumbled and Kieran's denial faltered, I would see their world shift beneath their feet. I left my apartment that evening with a steady heartbeat, a calm mind, and a fire in my chest. The trap was set. The stage was ready, and all that remained was to let the truth speak. Dinner started like any other. The soft clinking of cutlery, low chatter, the warm glow of the chandelier above us. On the surface it looked ordinary. Family laughing, exchanging stories, toasting two small victories, but beneath it, the tension simmered like a storm waiting to break. I could feel it in every fiber of my body. Every glance Celine cast in Kieran's direction felt like a spark against dry tinder. And I knew finally that tonight the fire would ignite. Celine's smile was flawless, practiced, the kind that hides everything. But I saw the tremor in her hands, the way her eyes flicked too often to her phone. Kieran sat beside her, polite, guarded. His expression carefully neutral, but I caught the flickers of guilt, the hesitation whenever I looked his way. I let the evening breathe for a few minutes, letting their nerves build. Subtle, calculated. I didn't speak yet. I didn't need to. The truth was already in the room, waiting for the right moment. Then I made my move. Calm, composed, letting my voice carry just enough weight to slice through the casual chatter. Celine, Kieran, I think it's time we talked about what helping really means. My words hung in the air, deceptively gentle, but underneath there was steel. The way their faces shifted, I'd waited for that, and it hit me like satisfaction mixed with disbelief. Celine's smile faltered. Kieran blinked, caught off guard, his composure cracking just enough for me to see the guilt buried underneath. I revealed the evidence I had gathered: texts, photos, subtle proofs of her lies. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. My calm, precise delivery made the betrayal unavoidable. Every image, every word laid bare was a mirror of their deception. Celine's lips parted, a weak denial forming, but it crumbled almost instantly when I presented the undeniable truth. Kieran's eyes widened. The brother I had trusted, my closest ally, seemed suddenly smaller, trapped in the web of lies I had uncovered. The tension exploded in a flurry of emotion. Celine tried to interject, her voice shaking, but it was too late. The room was silent, all eyes drawn to the unfolding drama. My parents' expressions shifted from confusion to shock to quiet disappointment. Every gasp, every sharp intake of breath punctuated the magnitude of her betrayal. And when Kieran finally stammered, trying to explain, trying to deflect, I let him falter, let him feel the weight of his choices. I could see the panic in Celine's eyes as the truth settled like a heavy stone. I didn't raise my hand, but I could feel the sting of what should have been a slap. A physical manifestation of the betrayal, but I didn't need it. The humiliation, the shock, the raw exposure of her lies. That was enough. The karma I had been planning, the long, tense buildup, had finally arrived. In that moment, the room felt smaller, heavier, charged with every secret, every lie they'd hidden. I sat back, calm, composed, watching as the truth reshaped the night. Their betrayal, once invisible, now shone under the unforgiving light of reality. And I realized finally the power of seeing deception unravel with your own eyes. The room was frozen, heavy with disbelief, and I let that silence stretch just long enough for it to sink in. Celine's carefully crafted facade had crumbled, and Kieran's hesitation had transformed into shame. I didn't rush it. I didn't need to. The weight of truth was already doing the work for me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the culmination of every suspicion. Every small clue I had gathered, every quiet plan I had set into motion, and now it was unfolding perfectly. I started revealing everything in small doses, letting each revelation land like a hammer strike. Text messages where Celine claimed to be helping Kieran but were clearly directed at someone else. Calls made behind my back. Little lies, each one seemingly insignificant alone, but together forming a pattern impossible to ignore. I watched Celine squirm, her fingers twisting in her lap, her eyes darting around, searching for escape routes that didn't exist. The air was electric with tension, and every word I spoke made it crackle sharper. Kieran tried to speak, to defend, but I silenced him with a look. not anger control. Calm, steady, unshakable. He faltered, the guilt written plainly across his face, his voice failing him as he realized just how deep the betrayal ran. My heart pounded, but not with rage. It was satisfaction, the slow, deliberate triumph of seeing karma unfold. They had tried to hide behind smiles and excuses, but the truth had always been waiting, and now they couldn't deny it. I saw Selene's pride crack completely when I produced the last piece of evidence, a message she had forgotten. A slip in her perfect little plan. The color drained from her face. Kieran's eyes were wide, helpless, as the weight of their deception pressed down on them. The room was silent except for my voice, measured, cutting, and impossible to ignore. I let it hit just right, letting the humiliation sink in. The betrayal had been hidden for so long, but now it was raw, undeniable, public, and irreversible. And then I stepped back. Not because I had to, but because the power of what had happened didn't require my hand to strike. The revenge was complete in the simple, inevitable exposure of lies. Selena's face, a mixture of panic, anger, and shame, was all the closure I needed. Kieran's guilt, the tension in his body, the unspoken acknowledgement that he had failed me, reinforced the justice of the moment. Karma didn't need to. Yelit had arrived quietly, completely, and it had landed perfectly. I felt a strange calm wash over me afterward. The anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal, it didn't vanish entirely, but it became something sharper, clearer, and controlled. I had taken my pain, my distrust, and turned it into precision. They had seen me unravel only in my own measured way, and it had been enough. No chaos, no screaming, no meaningless rage, just truth, clarity, and the satisfaction of justice delivered. In that moment, I realized that revenge isn't about losing yourself in anger, it's about letting the truth do the heavy lifting. Selena's smirk was gone, Kieran's lies were exposed, and the room carried the weight of their choices. And for the first time in days, I could breathe, knowing that karma had done its work. After the storm had passed, the room felt different, heavier, yes, but also clearer. The weight of lies and deception had finally lifted, leaving space for truth to settle. I sat there quietly, letting the silence stretch. Watching Selene gather what was left of her pride and dignity, or what she thought she had left. Kieran looked small, humbled in a way I'd never seen before. And somewhere in that quiet, I felt a strange sense of closure. Not joy, not entirely, but something deeper, sharper, and satisfying. I thought about trust and betrayal, about how easily we hand over pieces of ourselves to people we think we know. I had trusted Selene completely, without question, without hesitation. I had trusted Kieran to be honest, to protect what mattered most. And both had failed me in ways small and large, hidden and glaring. But watching the truth unfold had reminded me of something crucial. Trust is sacred, but the truth is unstoppable. It has a way of finding its way to the surface, no matter how carefully you bury it. As the evening wore on, conversations shifted. The tension remained, but it was no longer chaotic, it was reflective. My parents spoke softly, their eyes shifting between us. It's understanding that what had happened wasn't just a quarrel, but a lesson in honesty and accountability. Kieran didn't try to explain anymore. He didn't need to. He knew the consequences of his choices. And Selene, she left quietly, finally stripped of the charm and confidence she had relied on for so long. There was no melodrama left, only reality. I leaned back in my chair, letting the emotions I had held tightly for weeks wash over me. Anger, hurt, betrayal, satisfaction, relief, each feeling layered on top of the other, forming a complicated, unshakable sense of clarity. I had felt powerless for a long time, but in exposing the truth, I realized that power isn't about force or aggression. It's about patience, observation, and letting justice, in whatever form it takes, reveal itself naturally. And then there was a quiet smile that surfaced on my lips, a smile not born of gloating, but of knowing I had navigated the storm with composure. I had confronted the lies, taken control of my reality, and let karma do its work without losing myself in it. I could move forward, not carrying the weight of their deceit, but the clarity that comes from seeing the full picture and acting decisively. I knew life wouldn't be the same, and maybe it shouldn't be. Relationships would have to be rebuilt, trust carefully measured, and lessons remembered. But in that moment, as I watched the final remnants of betrayal settle into their rightful place, I felt a profound sense of calm. The chapter had closed, and though the scars would remain, they were reminders of strength, clarity, and the undeniable truth. Deceit may hide for a while, but truth and calm always arrives. Finally, I looked at the quiet room and addressed myself in thought. And, in a way, the audience. Some people think lies can hide forever. Some think betrayal can slip past unnoticed. But the truth always finds a way. And when it does, it changes everything.